universities surrounding the area. But what do you think is a realistic way for Muslims, specifically at UMass, to go to these people? Because it's not really realistic since they're far away and they have their own communities to serve, and we don't have our own chaplains. So where do Muslims here at UMass turn to?
That's a great question, because it's facing the reality of things right now. And one thing that can happen is that you can actually bring Muslim chaplains onto campus to provide seminars. And those seminars can be addressed either to specifically the Muslim leadership in the community, so they can teach the Muslim leadership the skills that they've been taught as Muslim chaplains, or they can specifically come to the community itself, and they can also be there to help provide some answers to common questions, like, for example, a particular theme. The Muslim chaplain can come and speak directly to the particular theme of how to deal with peer pressure, particularly in, because it's such a broad topic, but particularly in like one subtopic like alcohol or something like that. So bringing people to come in to provide seminars, so at least that knowledge and those skills spread, if you don't at least have the person there to teach it and to be part of it directly. And it's also good to maintain a relationship with local, even somewhat distant Muslim chaplains, or people who have been trained in this particular area. That's a good question.
Don't they have chaplains in Mount Holyoke and Amherst?
Well, the religious affairs office of the 5 colleges, basically the private colleges in the area, they hire usually a Muslim chapter, not necessarily trained to be a chaplain, but an adult who can sit and listen to people's regular problems. And we have, I think Amherst College has Brother Muhammad Abdul-Al, and my Holyoke College has his wife, Liza. But I think at some point, even Smith College has somebody, but I'm not sure how regular and how well trained they are.
No, and as you pointed out, those service providers are not really given the importance, or the importance of being hired and given the proper support.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's all right.
Also, one other aspect is the fact that certification for Muslim chaplains is something that's only new right now. So, for example, the school which I'm attending, they're the first place to offer, Hartford Seminary, they're the first place to offer Islamic chaplaincy certificate. So it's, at the same time, you have places that don't know to ask for it. So not as many people, they might be a Muslim chaplain by occupation, but they haven't been certified. It doesn't necessarily mean, I don't want to knock anyone down, because Muslim chaplains have been around for quite a while. But a certified Muslim chaplain is something that's very new, which means that they've received pastoral training.
So how long is that training?
Actually, it is, depending on how much time you have to dedicate, it takes about 1.5 years. It takes about 1.5 years full time. So if you want to do the full Islamic chaplaincy program at Hartford Seminary, it's actually 3.5 years, because it's also academic and pastoral.
So
yes.
I'm just wondering, what does that involve? What do you learn?
For example, the very first class which I took under the guise of Islamic chaplaincy was a course called, what was it, Addiction and Spirituality. And so it really spoke specifically to how spirituality has helped people facing addiction, and and it was great. It was honestly like one of the best classes I've ever took, because they actually brought people in who had gone through AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and talked about what exactly about religion, spoke to them that helped them through their crisis.
Good.
Yeah.
So here at UMass, we can't get the university to pay for a chaplain, because I guess because it's a public university.
Yes.
So they don't pay for I guess religious stuff. I don't know. But so how would we have something maybe similar to what you were talking about? Because you were talking about imam and masjid, and a masjid community like that, right? So as an MSA, what could we do to kind of substitute for that? Because we have those real issues that you've been talking about, like alcoholism, and people feel like, I'm not going to come to the MSA because they're just going to judge me or something like that. So how would you deal with those real issues on UMass campus?
There's actually 2 ways that have been successfully accomplished at a state school or at a public school. One at Exeter, which actually I'm not sure if it's completely private or public, but what they've done is they have used their alumni to be able to donate so much money to pay for a Muslim chaplain on campus. So just as long as it doesn't come from the school itself, it can come from an outside body. So Exeter, they're actually in the process of hiring a Muslim chaplain right now. They actually they contacted all their Muslim alumni, right? And other people as well who recognize what good a Muslim chaplain can bring to campus, whether or not you're Muslim or non-Muslim. And they actually asked for donations to cover, a year or so much time. And then that actually was the way that they were able to do it. At the University of Michigan, which they just hired their first Muslim chaplain, I believe they did something very similar. They looked for donations. In fact, it was a national campaign. They looked for donations across the United States to be able to help pay for the position. And it's interesting because I believe they, I'm not completely sure about this, but I think they refused like foreign, contributors just to show like that we're going to stand on our own 2 feet, And if that was the case, like I definitely agree, especially in the type of atmosphere we have nowadays. People, if you have any tie to anything, they start to question it, which is unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
So let me look at this question here. Where in America can you get education to become a chaplain? How long is the program? Well, actually the programs are becoming more diverse. Right now the best program, and I might sound biased, but that's where I'm going, but it's also the only program, is the one at Hartford Seminary. You guys might be familiar with Dr. Ingrid Mattson? Mm-hmm. Okay, she was the spearhead of the program initially. Now she's moving to Canada, but she's been spearheading the program for about 10 years now. And so how long is the program? As I said earlier, if you already have a master's and you just want to get the chaplaincy certificate, it's about 1.5 years realistically. It says 1 year, but it's about 1.5 years realistically. Because you have to do something called clinical pastoral education, which is where you work within a clinical environment as basically a supervised chaplain. And you have to do I think 300 hours of it or something like that. So it takes time. How do you see the future of young American Muslims? It's a very, I want to say this way that if I may kind of change this to, be a little bit more to what I can address, that I see that the future of Islam in general, and American Islam, is that it's going to become more self-identified. That we're going to become more and more independent in the way that we understand ourselves. Now, if you study and you take a look at Muslim American history, you see that there's been a Muslim community here in the United States since prior to the Constitution itself. And I'm talking more than just, what most people know about African Americans, right, being the slaves, right? About like 20% or something like that of slaves were Muslim, right? I'm talking about a real, even beyond that, history of American Muslims in the United States since the beginning of the United States. That we've been here. But in all actuality, because of, I'll just be specific, ever since 1965, when we had changes in the way that we deal with immigration, we had a larger amount of Muslim immigrants coming to the United States. And the Muslim American community at that time, it was growing in one particular direction. But then when we started getting a lot more people from overseas coming in, they started to tell the American Muslim community what to do. Oh, you're doing that wrong. Oh, you should be dressing this way. Oh, you should do this and that. And I'm not trying to come down, but I'm trying to state a reality. That now we have this mentality because of, since the 1960s or so, a large group came in, that the Muslim identity is somewhat new to the United States because it's only recently been placed here. But no, this is just, there was a surge in American Muslim life here, population since then. But Muslim Americans have been here since the beginning. I was just mentioning earlier that the area right now that there was a lot of controversy about the Ground Zero Mosque and so forth. Do you know that actually it was like in the 1930s or something like that, that area used to be called Little Syria because they had so many Syrian Americans living there? So they're talking about, you know, this is sacred American non-Muslim ground. You know, okay, but what about Ahmed and Muhammad who used to live up the block? You know? That area, like, we have a rich history, but sometimes people take advantage or don't know about that history. So my vision for the future of American Muslims in general is that we'll become more independent. We'll become more independent. We'll take what we need to learn from others while at the same time learning how to stand on our own 2 feet. Any other questions or comments or suggestions? Yeah?
I think this is an awesome thing. How well are the youth spread people the services? Because, like, I had no